Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode number 4 of the Going Racing podcast here, 2025. We are fresh off of race 3 of the season in what was probably the wildest 3 races, or more interesting 3 races to start a NASCAR season. We still don't really have an idea where everybody racks up following Circuit of the Americas, but it was an absolute blast, to say the least, to actually watch the action this past weekend. I am joined, as usual, by Mr. Jay Cook himself, who's, as I've learned in recent minutes, has become a professional painter on American Truck Simulator. Is that so?
No, we're not.
I heard he
not
was doing
giving me that title.
commissions
No.
for free.
No, that's not how commissions work. That's not what's happening. Do not ask me for stuff like no.
Services from Jay are available.
No.
Yeah.
No.
All right. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good, just like what we were talking about before the podcast. We were both doing good then.
That's right. Yeah, it's still doing good now.
And we're both doing pretty good now.
Personal note of it's a week old now, but it happened after our last recording of the podcast. Hit 50 pounds lost last week. Lost another 2 pounds this week. So we're getting thin. We're getting
skinny. Down now to 75 pounds?
B. Do what?
Were you down to 75 pounds now?
As in weighing 75 pounds?
Yep, total.
Yeah, I definitely weigh only 75. yeah. Okay. Times that by about 3.
Can we get a congratulations to Jay?
Actually, more than 3.
Well, I got a personal update to add as well, actually, before we kick things off. My stomach's a bit upset, so at some point I might have to pause the show. That's
totally
it. That's
acceptable, you know?
That's all I've got outside of that. Nothing else has really happened. Still got to do my taxes.
Tax fraud.
Tax fraud. Ask my sister. All right. We are here to talk about NASCAR. That's what we're here for. And kind of like last week, we kind of had a bit of a quiet week in terms of, well, actually, I say quiet, but there is a few big talking points, including Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe's appeal being one and whatnot. And we'll kick things off, though, of course, with Circuit of the Americas. But before we do that, we have hit that glorious point, Jay, where I told you I might have to pause the show. And I absolutely have to do that right now. So,
alrighty, well then go take care.
We're back after my slight delay of time, and we're going to jump straight into Circuit of the Americas. I guess we should talk about the Xfinity series first. And that race, which, of course, Jay, we had the new configuration of COTA this past weekend, and I was quite skeptical of how the racing was going to be. And I remember I talked about it on the podcast. I was like, it's probably not going to be that great of a race. I felt like I was proven very wrong on both Xfinity and the Cup Series sides. I felt like before we kind of really dissect the 2 races, I think both of us can agree that was a pretty flawless race on both Xfinity and especially the Cup Series side for the standards of the next gen and previous road course races.
Yeah, that was a lot better than I was expecting. And just, I mean, the Xfinity race on Saturday immediately blew me away. And I knew we were set up to have a potentially really good race on Sunday. And luckily it did translate to the next gen car. The course was really, really nice. I think NASCAR was pretty decent on the rules as far as cutting and everything goes for it. They were pretty consistent. They were very upfront about how they were going to be policing it. They were very upfront to the drivers and the teams about how they'd be policing it. I know there was the Turn 6 drama, but I think that was just the teams and the drivers interpreting things wrong. But yeah, I think overall the course change was a really, really nice change, and I hope we go back there.
Yeah, I did see that this was the last year on the calendar for COTA through the contract.
Yeah,
so I'm curious to see if we'll be there.
It's a 3-year deal, I think it was.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be renegotiated again.
I would much rather stay there than go back to, Texas Motor Speedway again. So
there's not many other places I would rather go than COTA currently. Chicagoland is maybe one of them, and that's probably the only one that I'd rather have come back over COTA. but I don't want to lose a road course for an oval again overall, period.
You know, it'd be cool as a road Atlanta.
That I would be very fine with that. I want Road Atlanta on the Cup schedule very badly. I don't see that one happening though. I think the only reason we got this is because COTA is also in the state of Texas, and Marcus Smith can work with. Well, I guess technically Atlanta Motor Speedway is also right there. So I don't know. We're getting into a bit of a different topic there. It's all about what SMI wants to do, where they want to spend their money. But I would imagine if it's not at COTA, it's back at Texas next year.
I agree. And also, I think like 2 Atlanta dates doesn't help the idea of getting a Road Atlanta race on the calendar.
Yeah, 3 races in Georgia would probably be a bit too much, even though they're on 2 different. They would be on 2 different tracks. I have a feeling NASCAR wouldn't want to push that.
And this is a whole nother side topic, but I just wanted to talk
yeah.
about it. No, not you. I'm going even further.
Oh, okay.
When I was in Florida, in Georgia, when we were in Georgia for the 24 Hours of Daytona, I have never seen roads like that in my entire life.
That's crazy.
I've never seen roads in my life. Now, I've never seen roads like Georgia roads anywhere in my entire life. It was so insane how, I mean, they weren't narrow. They were the same kind of width, but just how bendy and windy everything is, and kind of you got so many like really quick bends and some like blind kind of type of corners, and like I felt so at risk of dying every time we were in the car. In Georgia.
I guess that's also like, and this is still getting completely off topic, but I saw a video on Twitter the other day that was like $2 million to drive down this road, and it was just like a country road, and there's no lights, and it's just like a normal country road. And somebody was like, y'all got to get out of LA and New York. And I'm like, that's probably true. Because to me, I saw that video and I'm like, oh, that's just a normal road. That's just a regular old normal road. So I don't know. I'm used to it. I've grown up here. I'm used to it. I'm used to roads like that. A lot of the roads, not only in Georgia, but in the South are like that. But also Georgia specifically, because it's a lot of rolling hills, a lot of woods, a lot of nothing built up. So it's just, you come from where you are, which is very much not a big city, but very much a developed area. And you come to here, and outside of Atlanta, there's just not a lot of development here. So yeah, it's a lot of back roads, a lot of country roads, a lot of sketchiness. There is sketchiness, I will agree. There are some roads that still sketch me out, but I'm used to it. I've grown up here, so I don't ever think anything about it.
I was very uncomfortable. So that's one of the parts I don't miss about that trip.
Really? Because obviously, again, me and Austin have grown up here, so we probably didn't think anything of it. I didn't think of a perspective of that being like, man, I'm never seen roads like this before, which to me, it still seems weird to say that, but I guess I can see how it would be a little bit definitely different in sketch.
It was weird, but I survived.
There was a lot of just middle of nowhere in that, and that does get a little sketchy.
Yeah, but as well, like there's a lot of like some areas, you had those like windy roads, and like the trees are just right there all around you, and I'm like if someone's not paying attention, they're just going to go off this bend and crash head on into a tree and they're dead.
That's why a lot of those curves you'll see when you go up to them, there's like 50 arrows pointing what direction the turn is going. That's usually because there's a lot of crashes on that turn.
It was interesting.
They usually have to do
that. For sure. But we survived. Apparently it's normal for these guys, but it was certainly not normal for myself. But let's get back on topic. Circuit of the Americas.
Yes.
Xfinity race, Connor Zillish shows up, and he was by far the best driver. Didn't, of course, dominate because of the fact that when he was leading towards the end of stage 1, he comes in to make his pit stop, and then there was a caution, and unfortunately he was a couple feet away from the commitment line or whatever.
It wasn't much,
and where he was, you probably really couldn't see that light going on to begin with, because he was pretty well right under it, so you'd have to be like looking up. But that screwed him for a little bit there, and that honestly it sucked for him at the time. Obviously he still ends up winning the race, but fortunately for us, Ray, that made it more exciting, because now we got to watch the fastest guy instead of cakewalk everybody. He actually had to go and work his way through the field, which is interesting because Zillish is only 18 years old, so it doesn't matter how good he is, he's still really, really young. They're going to make mistakes, and we saw him have a few slip ups, kind of marching his way forward. He wrecked Corey Heim. Um, he had, I know he ran his teammate off on that one restart, Carson Gvoppel. And then who did he get damage from? Did he get the damage from wrecking Corey Heim? I think he might have.
I believe so. I was just going to look that up right now, actually, to go back over his incidents because I've yet to go back and look at them. But I believe that was. I don't know if the damage was from the contact with Carson. I don't think it was, but I can't
I think it
recall.
was
I know the
Heim.
damage to Carson's car I think came from Connor because Carson eventually blew a right front. I think it was. But I don't know if that was the same for Zilich or not.
I'm pretty sure. Zilich's was from the crash with Heim. But either way, I mean, I think the field got lucky. He got that damage because it definitely you could see just based off of the actual lap times and the way it looked, it slowed him down a bit. But you got to give credit to Carson Gvoppel.
Yes.
A damaged Zilich or not, he still was able to hold his own and keep pressure on the 88 for a good chunk of time. Zilich did start to slip away in the last few laps before he ended up blowing that tire. But still, I don't think anybody expected. I didn't expect anyone to really pressure him all day. So I was still quite impressed that Kvapil was the one to step up. He was probably one of the drivers I had no indication that would be able to step up to the plate and do that there.
And just to reiterate as well, it was the contact with Heim that gave the damage to Zilich. But yeah, like I mentioned, it was a really good race towards the end, especially with Zilich and Koffel. And like you mentioned, Koffel was not a guy that I expected to contend with Zilich, but he really made him work for it towards the end for a few laps anyways. And those two went at it really, really hard. Obviously, a young Xfinity guy is racing for the win. There's going to be contact. There's going to be things that happen. But those two put on a really good race, and it was really fun. It was unfortunate that the mistake happened to Zilich in the end of stage one, but it was fun to watch him work his way through the field. Ultimately, still got the win. Ultimately, was still the best guy there, but he had to work a little bit harder for it. And sometimes for an 18-year-old kid who, I mean, everybody is putting so much pressure on. Everybody's touting him as this great talent. Sometimes having those moments like that is a really good thing for somebody like Connor Zilich, because it's a lot of learning moments. It's a lot of, okay, I can still come through the field and still win this thing. I'm still really quick even if I make a mistake and all this stuff. So for Zilich, I thought Saturday was his best performance of the weekend. Sunday, it was going well until the crash. But I think Xfinity on Saturday for Zilich was by far his best performance. Just overall, everything that happened to him, and he was able to overcome it and still win the race.
Did you see his little? I would imagine it's going to be his signature move now.
The sleep move. Yeah, I saw that.
I thought that was kind of funny. And then you got out of the car and go on.
I nothing. Not too much. It's just when I saw him do that, my first immediate thought was maybe that's a call. I don't know if you pay attention to anything basketball, but I don't know if that was a call to Steph Curry or the fact that him and Jesse Love have been going back and forth with each other about sleeping the last couple of weeks. I'm not too sure which one it was. Maybe a bit of both, but either way, still kind of cool. I like it. So,
I already forget what I was going to go on about. So, it wasn't important, obviously. So, no, you're all good. So, Connor Zilich wraps it up. Gets his first win, puts himself in the Xfinity Series playoffs, which I think is really important for Zilich to do now because although he stepped up quite a bit in his few part-time starts for JRM on the ovals last year, right towards the end of the year, it's still it takes a lot of pressure from him away to now he can kind of spend this regular season making sure he really gets comfortable with this oval stuff, and he doesn't have to stress about making the playoffs now.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if, and this is maybe my thinking of he's a future Cup guy for sure. I don't know if playoffs and championships in the Xfinity Series are a huge deal for Zilich right now. Maybe they are to him. I mean, he is in the Xfinity Series. This is the furthest he's gotten. It is the stepping stone to the Cup Series. This is probably me getting far ahead of myself here and not necessarily him. I'm sure he does care about it. His team cares about it. Obviously, Junior and the whole JRM team cares about it. So It is a good thing to have him locked into the playoffs. He can focus on the regular season, getting better at ovals. Obviously, still gonna have a few more road courses later in the year as well. And I believe for the Xfinity Series, they might have at least. I know they got the Roval in the playoffs. They might have two in the playoffs. I'm not too sure when their playoffs start. So if they have more than one, that's going to be a big advantage for Zilish. But either way, it's a big deal for Zilish to get this win out of the way early, like you said. Can focus on the ovals. I think no matter what, he's going to focus on the ovals big time because that's the place he definitely needs to improve. But I mean, it's just the talent is there. It's undeniably there for Connor Zilic. This is probably the most hyped up anybody has been about a driver in NASCAR since maybe Joey Logano or Kyle Busch. It's been quite a long time since we've had a driver get this hyped up before stepping into the Cup Series and did this past weekend. But obviously the hype was there well before he did that race last weekend.
Imagine if he can be as good on ovals as he is road courses. I think
Everybody
would be
big
screwed.
time trouble.
So,
we would be singing another 7-time champion. Hello, Connor Zilish.
but however, like you look at, like I said, the races he did for JRM on the ovals last year, which was I think he only did two, which was it was a mile and a half.
Many.
I think it was Vegas or Kansas. I think it was Kansas, and then Phoenix. And as a rookie who'd only done some ARCA oval racing, he was running top 5 in both of his races. So that is
I think it's going to be the thing as well. Is he's in JRM equipment, which is like I think I mentioned this before. It's top of the top in the Xfinity Series. Of course, Zilic is a massive talent, but I think it's going to be a little bit hard to judge just because that equipment is going to carry him a long way. But again, the guy is super talented. You can't take that away from him. No matter how good the equipment is in, it still takes a good driver. It still takes a lot of talent, and Zilic has it. So I'll be looking forward to as we get further into the season now, consistently on some ovals for him, how the results start to stack up and how they hopefully continue to build momentum and build progress on his oval side.
You think there's any teams that are trying to like yoink him from Trackhouse?
I'm sure that every team, if you have a car in the Cup Series, you are trying to work your way into that door. I don't know if anybody will be able to steal him away unless he has desires to go Cup racing next year and Trackhouse can't give him that. That's the only way I see Trackhouse losing Connor Zilic.
I've got a good idea that I think he might be Cup racing next year.
Yeah, I think there's a certain car available for him next year right now.
Maybe the car that took him out.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe that one.
We'll see how that works out. And a good segue, speaking of Connor Zilic getting taken out, let's jump into the race he got taken out in. That was the Cup Series race where he made his debut in the number 87 Red Bull, which that car, let's just talk about that car. I think someone did a comparison from the promo card to the new card. The Red Bull logo was a lot bigger, which actually did look better. But
it
overall,
does take up more space, which was nice.
I think that's still got to be by far the worst Trackhouse paint scheme of all time.
I agree. It's also definitely the worst Red Bull scheme of all time, I think, across any motorsport. I mean, there's probably some livery out there somewhere in Rallycross or something that I'm not thinking of or don't know exists. But as far as F1 or NASCAR or previous NASCAR schemes, I mean, it's not god-awful, but it's pretty bad, and it just really boring and dull and bland.
I wonder, like, if there was. I wouldn't think there was, but I wonder if there was some Red Bull kind of perimeters that they had to follow or something, because that
I'm
is
sure
so
there was,
unlike
because
Trackhouse.
every sponsor has that. Every sponsor has those guidelines for following it. I mean, if you look at the way the Red Bull logo is now on this Cup car compared to when they were last here with the COT, you can see that there is a common theme of the Red Bull logo being the main thing, the big giant thing on the side of the car. It's just the other design of there being nothing. There was the little white square with a QT logo, and that's it. Like I don't know why there's just no design there. It was just a matte blue car with a Red Bull logo and a little white area for QT logo, and that's it. I don't know why that's all we got.
Definitely a step down from the usual Trackhouse kind of level of paint schemes.
Was it I don't know if we know, and you may not know. Do we know if it was made by Kyle Sykes? Because
It
it could
was.
have been the
It
Red Bull
was.
designer. Okay.
Because I saw him
I would
like tweeting
imagine
about it.
then, if it was made by Kyle, then I would imagine that had to have been a Red Bull thing. Because I mean, obviously, you see all the other paint schemes he's made for Trackhouse. I mean, I can't think of many that are bad. So that's probably most likely a Red Bull thing. I just don't know why they would have done that, considering most of their other cars look pretty good. Most of their other cars are bland, but not that bland. So I don't know.
Another thing that we've kind of talked about with Trackhouse paint schemes is one thing that we really like that they're doing, especially on SVG's car, is they got the little Red Bull sponsorship on the rear spoiler, which is open game for all teams this season can do it, but we're only really seeing Red Bull, or we're only seeing Trackhouse really do it. I saw one other team did it. It was one of the, I think it was like a Rick Ware car, but
yeah, that would make sense.
They don't really matter.
They usually, well, yeah, okay. You were going a different direction. I was going to say they usually always take advantage of sponsor placements and stuff like that. But yeah, it's surprising to see that not all the teams are taking advantage of that, because it's more money opportunity, and to me, when you do it right, it looks cool.
I agree, and I think Trackhouse does it really well. So I would imagine we'll kind of see some teams maybe take advantage of it as the year goes on, but who knows? So yeah, we had the Cup race take place, and I mean we had drama immediately right off the bat in turn one when Chastain, who gave Carson Hocevar that big talk a week ago, just chucks it off into turn one and cleans out the 9 of Chase Elliott. And then obviously there was that ripple effect where everyone's kind of trying to avoid the mess, and Hamlin gets his damage. Ty Gibbs jumps up over top of him. Zilish gets damage on the opening lap. He had to pit for a flat tire. Fortunately for him, he did not lose a lap, so he ended up having an okay ending of a first stage to stay on the lead lap. But yeah, Chastain of old, as you mentioned there, just kind of barreled it off in there. And honestly, I don't know what he was, I mean, I get what he was trying to do, but even I remember watching it live, and I saw it because they had that like over top view of turn one.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him coming in there, and I'm like, I said out loud to my dad, I was like, this is not going to work. And sure enough, he just whoop, he cleans out the 9. I'm like, of all people, that's not the one you want to clean out. But it was just, I mean, I get what he was trying to do, but obviously it was a very old school Chastain where he just completely misjudged what he was trying to do.
And yeah, I mean, it's first corner. Obviously, that first corner at that track provides a lot of opportunity for moves like that. But it's first corner, first lap. You already know that there's going to be 3 and 4 wide in front of you. Going for a move like that, I think is. I mean, obviously, it's very early, but it's also pretty stupid to go for a move, that kind of move like that on the first corner, the first lap. But we're on the overhead shot. You see him. They're 4 wide. They're 5 wide. Here comes Ross Chastain barreling in there 6 wide, and next thing you know, he's wiping out Chase Elliott, and the other cars are flying in the air, getting damaged. So it's just, I mean, it was a chaotic COTA start, as kind of what turn one is developed.
Yeah, you expect chaos,
why it exists. Yeah, exactly. You expect it. However, I will say, without Chastain doing that, I think we would have had a relatively clean turn one. But Ross Chastain brought his old self back and went in there and did that. And I will say, I think this point was briefly brought up on Hamlin's podcast this week, but it was a bit ironic. If Chastain was mad at Hocevar last week, which I'm not sure that he really was, because he's his mentor, they were just chatting in the grass. Didn't look like
more like an advice kind of thing.
Yeah, but if Chastain, let's say he was mad at Hocevar last week, and then he goes and does that first opportunity he gets in a race the next weekend, kind of ironic, but still. That's a different conversation. I don't think he was mad at Hocevar. I think it was just a conversation he didn't want anybody to hear, and just pulled him aside and was like, all right, let's have a mentor to mentee talk. But anyways, back to COTA. That turn one incident, I mean, it's classic Ross Chastain. I'm not going to say I want him to do more things like that. However, if he wants to go back to being aggressive again, I am all for it. I enjoyed when we had Ross Chastain doing Ross Chastain things. It made things funny. It made things interesting. It got the Cup Series fired up. I I don't want him running over people and doing really dumb stuff, but I liked when he was aggressive. So if we get that back, then yay.
Wouldn't recommend taking out Hendrick cars though, because we know how Hendrick gets about that. So.
And that's, I don't know if you saw on the last lap of the race, but Chastain was
he
in
pulled
front
right
of
over.
Chase, and he
No,
just
it was
pulled
like
right
a few
over and
laps
let
ago.
Elliott go.
Yeah.
Oh, either way, a couple laps to go, he pulls over and lets Chase Elliott go. It's just like, man,
you should have owned it and wrecked him again. You're like, yeah, I did it. Let me do it again.
The whole thing of his wreck with Larson at Darlington a couple years ago and him being calm ever since, the whole thing of, Hendrick going and talking to him and Chevrolet going and talking to him after that, I'm starting to believe that more and more. And I really do think they are Chevrolet is hanging their connection with Trackhouse over their heads because of the whole Hendrick situation.
I mean, obviously, like, Chastain overstepped his boundary a bit there at that Darlington crash.
A little bit, yeah,
but,
just a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I don't like how the result that came out of it. I think Chastain can, he can clean things up, but he doesn't have to, pull himself back to where it's like he hasn't raced like him true self since that point.
Not at all. Not at all.
And well, he's won 2 races since that happened. He won at the Nashville, and then he went and won I don't even know what race he won last year. It was in the playoffs. Was it Nashville? Not Nashville. Vegas maybe. I think Vegas. So he's still, he found victory lane a couple times, but that old Chastain's kind of missing, and we at least saw a little bit of it come back, and then you get towards the end of the race, and like Jay mentions there, he just kind of pulls over. I think letting the 9 go is not really an issue, but in kind of the way he did it. I mean, Elliott was with like 3 car lengths back, just got past SVG, and he just pulled over off the throttle and said, "Oh, go by." And SVG passed him too in the process. That's how much he let off.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, SVG got around him there too and beat him. So
okay.
That's how much he was off.
Tinfoil hat time too. Trackhouse's performance has also dropped off a cliff since that whole Darlington incident. So I'm just saying, Chevrolet, what are we doing here? That tinfoil hat time, but that's all I got on that.
We're not conspiracy theorists, but there might be something there.
But I'm just saying.
And that's why Daniel Suarez is going to lose his ride, because Hendrick sabotaged the team. That's a lot of silence there. I think that tells you everything. So we get back into the action.
It's
what?
Nothing. Go ahead. Nothing.
Okay, we get back into the action after that whole mess, and there was a little bit of chaos. I think there was another spin, like on the same lap or within a lap, and but we get to the point where it was very early on in this race, and Ty Dillon and Austin Cindric, they have their moment where Ty Dillon, I mean, out of the final turn, he's on the inside of Austin Cindric and runs him way wide. It wasn't, I don't even think either he just screwed up or he just said, I am not going to let this guy on the racetrack. And to me, we'll talk about the penalty in a moment, but to me, in that situation there, Ty Dillon screwed around and found out immediately.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know. I don't think that's a move you did not need to make that early in the race. Obviously, I don't think that's a move you need to make till like within the final couple laps. But and then, however, you look at Austin Cindric, he goes and very blatantly right hooks Ty Dillon down the straightaway, which we know. Obviously, it's a heat of the moment thing. He's probably not really thinking about it, but we know what comes out of that. But I'm like, dude, you could have just followed him down into turn 1 and sailed him off there and cleaned him out, and you wouldn't be in the position you are this week with a what was that, a 50-point penalty?
50-point penalty, I think, and monetary fine of some
I think
kind.
he got like a $50K fine or something too. So
I think it might have been $100K. It was something like that. It was a pretty big penalty. It's about as severe it could be.
It's basically someone said it's a race suspension, basically, without
him being actually suspended.
Yeah. So I was like, come on, man, you could have wrecked him in turn 1.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think the penalty is fair.
Yeah, the penalty is fair. Him not getting suspended is fair. I didn't think he should have been suspended. I get the people being like, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself talking about the penalty here, but I get the people being like, it's not the outcome that should matter here. It's the
I think it
intended
does in that
result. It's all
situation.
that stuff. I think the outcome always matters. I think it has to always matter. It's not just your action. It's also the outcome of that action that has to matter. I think that you can't just okay, so Kyle Larson goes in and, completely dumps somebody by spinning them in turn one. Hey, we're at a road course, not a big deal. Okay, Kyle Larson at, I don't know, Kansas or somewhere goes into turn one, full throttles, and shucks somebody into the wall.
That's a
Same
big
result,
deal.
you full throttled, but at a road course, you just turn them, you dump them, but at a mile and a half like that, you're plowing them into the wall.
Yeah,
The
the car's
results of that
junked.
matter. The same thing, but the results of that matter. So the results do need to be factored in. They do matter. I think NASCAR deciding not to penalize because of that, I think is a good decision. It's just you can't always say no matter what it's a right hook suspend. You can't do that. You have to look at the result as well.
You look at, when both Bubba and Elliott got suspended. Obviously, it was mile and a half tracks. They're going like, what, 180, a little bit more. What, I don't know what the heck the top speed is right now at a mile and a half, but they're going fast.
They're going a lot quicker than they are at the road course.
And they right hook. And in both scenarios, the cars that they targeted got absolutely demolished. And they also junked themselves in the process.
Yes.
Both Bubba and Elliott did that. Compared to Austin Cindric, he turns the 10. He might have clipped the barrier, but it was barely an impact, and he got back going with no issue.
Ty Dillon probably would not have hit the wall if it wasn't for the 38 being right there and gave him a little tap, because Ty was almost done spinning and the 38 couldn't keep from hitting him, and he tapped him a little bit and it pushed him into the wall. He probably wouldn't have hit it if it wasn't for Zane Smith being there. So, again, he still hit the wall. He still did whatever. The result still matters. But I'm just saying, it wouldn't have been. I don't even think he would have made contact with the wall if the 38 wasn't there in the first place. So the right hook is a right hook, or well, in this case, a left hook. But no, it's still a right hook. It's the right corner, the right side of the car. But anyways, point is, it was not that big of a deal. It's not that bad. Cindric overreacted a bit.
Just wait to turn one,
but Ty Dillon also, like, second lap of the race, I think that was, or maybe ending the first.
And we know Ty Dillon wasn't going to get away from him.
Yeah, just pushes him off the track, doesn't leave him room. I think that Cindric being mad about it and retaliating in some way, I think that's totally fair.
I don't mind retaliation at all. I think it's good for the sport, unless not when we're junking
I'm not
cars,
gonna
though.
blanket say I don't mind retaliation, because there are some points when retaliation should
outcome
not happen.
matters.
But in that situation, the way he did it, I think it was fine. But
I agree.
There are definitely ways to do it where it's not fine.
Like, I don't agree in the Bubba Wallace and the Chase Elliott retaliation, for example.
Bad.
Don't do that. That does not belong in racing. But I just want to say, shout out to Austin Cindric, because I was glazing you like a week ago for how fair and clean you race everybody, and then less than a week later you right hook a guy. So it doesn't look good. But I think it's not going to be good for his playoff situation. Ooh. But I mean, at the end of the day, though, I wouldn't rule him out as a playoff contender. But I mean, it's still too early in the year. But I mean, he's run. Actually, he kind of ran like crap in COTA, didn't he?
Sorry, I was not paying attention, because I just saw there was some Noah Gregson, Ricky Stenhouse beef on Twitter.
I saw that. I thought there was some legitimate beef, but it looks like it was just fun messing around. Unless there was more that I didn't see.
I don't know. Noah just tweeted a few minutes ago a picture of the wreck at Daytona when Ricky was trying to clown him for the point standing stuff. I don't know. Maybe it is real. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't.
The point standing stuff.
Ricky Stenhouse, or Noah tried to.
Oh, I see
call out Ricky Stenhouse for the point standings, and then Ricky was like, "Here, let me zoom out." And because Ricky's 10 points and Noah's all the way down in 27th. And
Stenhouse is flexing that he's 10th in the points, as he already knows he's going to continue to dwindle down to about the position Gregson is currently in as the regular season goes on.
I don't know Do I sound fine on your end?
Yes.
Okay, there was a lot of lag there a second, but I think we're good now.
So, where were we? Austin Cindric crash penalty. Boom. He has 50 points to make up. We'll see how that goes. 3 races down. I can't say if he'll be still making the playoffs or not because they're really, with the 3 races that we've had, it's basically impossible to really know where everyone stacks up.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can take. I mean, I can tell you one thing: Christopher Bell, he's looking pretty good right now. But outside of that, I don't think you can really take any of the 3 races so far as a idea to see where everyone's going to stack up on the, the main tracks like the mile and a half. But we know Christopher Bell will obviously be strong. Kyle Larson will be strong. Danny Hamlin, those guys. Byron. But I'll be curious to see what the guys like Hendrick or the Penske guys and some of the other Joe Gibbs guys. How about Ty Gibbs? Can we talk about him? We're getting a lot of sidetracked here. But Ty Gibbs, Jay, someone brought it up in my live stream chat. I think it was October King. He said I can't remember the exact stat, but I think it was I think
I know which one you're talking about.
3 top 10s in the last 20 races or something like that. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, his and you think back to last year, there's the one I was thinking of was something about, I think it was something about the amount of DNFs or below top 30.
He's had a lot of those.
Finished outside the top 30 or whatever it is, the last 10 races or something like that. Maybe more than 10 races. It's been really rough for Ty Gibbs. And I will say, I don't think a lot of the blame goes to him because he had a lot of mechanical failures towards the end of last season. I mean, there was it felt like the last 10 races, he had 7 mechanical failures. But yeah, from being wildly dominant in the Xfinity Series to basically nothing so far in the Cup Series, I don't know what to think of it. I have yet to really change my mind to be like, okay, he's a bust. I think the talent is still there. I just don't know. I don't know what exactly is wrong with Ty Gibbs or with his team or what that's not bringing the results that he showed in the Xfinity Series. But something obviously has gone wrong. I think I used to think he was a race-winning driver. That might be changing a little bit. I don't know. I think it still might be a little bit too early to say on Ty Gibbs. But the expectations were definitely there. Obviously, with him winning a lot in the Xfinity Series and being on Joe Gibbs, the expectations were there for him to win. It's just it is not translated to on track at all so far in the Cup Series. He has struggled a lot.
He had a miserable race in COTA as well. But I wonder,
helps when you're flying in the air in the first corner of the race, though. So I mean, it's not too great.
And then he wrecked again later, I think, in the race, if I remember correctly. But I'm not 100% sure on that. Where did he finish in COTA? Ty Gibbs finished 34th. All right,
that's not good.
He finished worse than Kyle Larson. But I look at Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, what's his name, William Byron. But it took Larson and Elliott right about both 100 races to win in the Cup Series. Byron, I'd say it took he won that one Daytona race quite early on, but outside of that, it seemed like it took him about that 100 race mark, basically getting into your 4th full-time year to where he was really starting to hit his stride as well. And that was still when those young guys that had talent had practice sessions. Ty Gibbs doesn't have that advantage at all to him.
That is very fair. I will say, so far to me, and maybe I am just remembering wrong because of the last the last several races for Ty Gibbs, but for Byron and Elliott and guys like that, it took a while to win. Even Kyle Larson, when he first came into the Cup Series years ago, it still felt like even though they weren't winning, they were performing pretty well. They were getting top 5s, they were getting top 10s, they were leading. We haven't really seen that at all out of Ty Gibbs.
He showed up early last year.
Much of anything out of Ty Gibbs.
Early last year, he was running up front quite a few races, and then he kind of seemed to throw it away. I remember the Bristol one as well, running up front, and then we had the whole tire debacle, and he was one of the drivers that kind of
Yeah,
used up his
yeah.
tires too much and paid the price for it. I think he still got a solid finish, but it just seemed as the year went on, he got worse. And I think that's where the concern's building now. Is like, okay, is he starting to feel some pressure now? Like, hey, I should be winning races, and now he's trying too hard, or are we just overlooking it completely?
I think I don't know. It's hard to say because I think his position at Joe Gibbs is, I mean, I would say that it's set. As long as he wants to keep racing, I would assume his position there is set as long as he's still got the backing from Monster. And even if he doesn't, I'm sure Joe would do anything to help him find a new sponsor. Um, but I don't know. I would assume maybe he's putting some pressure on himself because he has those expectations for himself. But it's just something with Ty Gibbs or his team has gone wrong. I don't know. Joe Gibbs has always seemed to have four cars, but three of them run really well, and one of them always struggles. And I feel like right now the
Surely it wouldn't be the
54 is the
grandson that
one car.
struggles.
Yeah, you'd think he would put, extra focus into making sure the tire ran well, but I mean, his other three cars are, well, they were championship caliber drivers. I'm not so sure about that for Briscoe.
It's championship
But
caliber if choking and screwing up races is a championship. But
I think
anyways,
was it Atlanta or was it COTA where he wrecked somebody right towards the end of the race?
I don't think he's wrecked anyone.
Maybe no, I swear there was a moment where I remember being like classic Chase Briscoe. Oh
I don't
no,
think
maybe
so.
not. There was a moment this weekend at COTA. I forget what it was, but it was in my head. I thought classic Chase Briscoe doing something dumb at a road course. I can't remember what it
Or any
was though.
track.
Now I'll have to go see if I mean yeah, but I'll have to go see if I can find what it was. I'm pretty sure I tweeted about it, so maybe that'll indicate something. But anyways, that's uh as far as Ty Gibbs goes. I don't know. I think there was so many mechanical failures. It might be something with the team, the car. I don't know. Something they're doing is just not working.
So we'll talk about moving on from that mess with Ty Gibbs and going forward. But who won stage number one? Do we remember who won that first stage? Who was
Bubba.
it? Yeah, because SVG dominated the stage, and then Kyle Busch kind of was there with him. And then they pit. Bubba stays out. He gets the stage win and picks up the playoff point, the 10 stage points. Then we go through stage two and trying to think of some whatever happened throughout these stages, but there wasn't really in stage two specifically. Was quite calm, but it was Ryan Preece that got the stage win there. After again we saw SVG and Kyle Busch. Those were kind of the top two guys in the first two stages. They pit again, blah blah blah. Those cars stay out. Preece, Blaney, McDowell, and then they get their stage points there at the top of the stage. But what we saw, I felt like in those first two stages though, was with the short course, a lot of side by side action. The as well, we saw something that we've really struggled to get with the next gen car, which was tire fall off. So we were actually seeing
Yes.
some comers and goers. I think there's still a way to go in that, but I think it was a huge improvement. But like we saw SVG, he was really slow to take off, and he would get better as the run goes on, as the tires were wearing. But he wasn't the only one. But that was really nice to see because we haven't really seen a lot of that since like Gen 6 days.
Yeah, I think it was a really nice change of pace for a lot of different reasons for the road course. I mean, there was passing, there was tire fall off, I mean, we always get the strategy because of the stage flipping, but I feel like the strategy this time was actually interesting. Um, and I think the tires had a big part of that, and Goodyear trying and experimenting with these softer tires, making the softest that they've ever made before, bringing them to these tracks. Of course, this weekend we're trying it again with Phoenix. I think Goodyear is. I used to clown on them a lot, but I think right now they are taking a lot of positive steps and really helping this car be able to make passes and be able to make good racing by just giving them more fall off, more options with strategy, a lot of things that they can do as a team with the tires to make themselves separate from the other teams. As far as I mean, the cars are pretty much all the same nowadays, so something has to be different, and the drivers and the tires are going to be the biggest factors there. And I think Goodyear is doing a really good job right now, and I hope it continues. I hope they keep trying and experimenting with these different tire compounds and different types of tires and all this stuff until we find a place where we have good racing on all these tracks.
And speaking of tires, we'll talk a little bit about that in just a short bit about the upcoming race with Phoenix, because there's that new tire situation that they tried last year at Richmond going on there. So we go stage 3, and SVG, it seemed like it didn't quite have as much as he had in the first 2 stages. Kyle Busch kind of, he got in control, but it was quite early. The Suarez crash was right at the beginning of stage 3.
Around halfway.
Around halfway, right at the start of stage 3. I think it was the end of the first lap of the stage, and Suarez gets on that penultimate corner curbing. And actually, really quick before we jump into that, just that brings up a thought, that curbing. The short version of the course, I really like those 2 corners with that 90-degree left-hander. Where you of course they were straightening up that right bend as much as they could before then. Yeah. And then that second left-hander where you're like jumping up over the curbing and you're right against the barrier and stuff. I thought that was really cool. It kind of felt like even though they weren't hauling the mail, it looked like they were going really quick in that little spot just because of the way it was set up. And I don't know, I always find stock cars when they're like that close to barriers and like going through a corner and up on the limits, really cool. Yeah, exactly like that. So I thought that was really cool. But
I figured it out. So Ty Gibbs did wreck later in the race. It was with 12 laps to go, or 13 to go, I think.
So he did wreck again. Okay.
Because Chase Briscoe absolutely sent it into turn 6.
Oh, that's right.
And just dumped him.
Yeah. Okay, right. I remember now. Yeah, you were right. Very rare moment.
Excuse me.
So yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. And then so we have the Suarez incident where he wrecks himself on the curb in the penultimate corner, spins around, doesn't hold the brake, keeps it rolling. Maybe he doesn't think anyone's going to be going over there, but that doesn't matter what you think. That hold the brake, please. And unfortunately, Connor Zilic gets the short end of the stick from his own teammate. He can't see anything until the last second.
He made a mistake
too. He got no time. Did he?
Yeah, he throttled up into the smoke, which is
that's
a little
true.
bit silly to do.
I think that right there was a rookie move for sure. Like, I don't think you're going to see him doing that again.
Both of them messed up in that situation. I can see where Daniel would be coming from if he's thinking nobody's going to be over there. In most situations where you're not dealing with an 18-year-old in like his 4th start in NASCAR overall, or well, maybe 5th or 6th now, but either way, you probably wouldn't have many drivers going over there because that's kind of where the smoke is, where the wreck is. You're gonna say to the left of it, but of course Zilic was so far back, he thought he could get around to the right. There's no smoke over to where he is, but then he throttles up, and Suarez by that point is going to the right and not holding the brake, and they run into each other. So, it's on both of them. Daniel should have held the brake. Zilic should not have gone that way, and then once he did, he shouldn't have slammed on the gas. And they collide, and it's an unfortunate way for Zilic to end his first race. But, another learning moment. I think it's a learning moment for even Suarez as well to realize, maybe, hey, I should have held the brake, and if this happens again, I will hold the brake. But I think it's just a moment for both of them to look at that and be like, all right, we both messed up. Let's move on and not have it happen again.
And that brings up a point we'll bring up in a few minutes because we'll kind of wrap up the COTA races, the broadcast. But let's save our comments for the Fox broadcast for a few more minutes here. That mess happens, and Suarez's future with Trackhouse continues to maybe get a little bit dimmer, but it's still early in the year. We'll kind of wait and see what happens there as a Suarez fan. I'm hoping for the best.
I'm not sure if there's much he can do, bar winning.
What if he wins 17 races
this year? Okay, that's what I'm saying. Bar him winning a bunch of races in the championship,
I think he's going to win at least 7.
Do to save his ride. Okay, then you know what? Then maybe he'll save his ride doing that. But you have Zilish waiting. You don't want to lose him. You're not going to get rid of Chastain. You're not going to get rid of SVG. I don't think they're going to open up a fourth car and pay a bunch of money for a charter. And who's the lone man out
You
there?
can't anymore
Suarez.
either.
Right, right. You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah, they can only have 3 cars now. So
You're right.
they have to make a decision. They're going to have to make a decision this year because I reckon if they don't step up, there's going to be a team wanting him in their car to just kind of get him, taken. That some team wants him, and if they can
There is
get him
not
in,
a
they
team
will.
in the Cup Series that is not finding a way currently to try and get him on the team. Hendrick is finding a way. Joe Gibbs is
I
finding a way.
guarantee
Penske.
Hendrick's even
There's not
involved.
a team right now that's not at least looking at what if that happens.
I heard Chase
Every
Elliott's on
team
the
is
hot
looking.
seat.
Yeah, yeah.
So, well, talking about Chase Elliott, made one heck of a drive through the field at the end of that race.
Oh
Got
yeah.
very
He
lucky
went
with the
from
last
21st
caution.
or 22nd.
Yeah. But put on fresh tires, and the tires made a difference. He drove through the back. We
which
never
was
see that
nice.
anymore. It was great. Hopefully, we continue to see that at road courses, short tracks as well. But yeah, we look towards the end of this race. There was some incidents here and there. Denny Hamlin gets on the dirt, takes out Austin Dillon because there was dirt on the track, which is not the first time we've seen that at these road courses in NASCAR. And
Especially COTA.
yes, I think it was COTA a few years ago where they had to throw a caution because there was dirt all across the S.
I think it was last year.
Maybe last year. Yeah, it was last year or the year
Yeah,
before.
you're right. It was one of the last 2 years, obviously. And yeah, they were cutting the course so much they had just thrown dirt all over the place.
So Austin Dillon gets trucked off into the gravel and stuck. Hamlin owes him many times, in my opinion, after Richmond. So fair game. And then Jay
Fair.
mentions the Briscoe incident with Ty Gibbs. And I can't think of any other incidents other than that Hamlin one was the one that brought out the last caution.
I believe the Briscoe and Ty Gibbs one was after that yellow. So
Yeah,
I think
it
was
so.
the last real incident of the race.
Larson got spun out by Ryan Preece in the last 10 laps. No caution there. Larson also had a wheel come off. He was 2 laps down at one point, and then he rebounded. He was like top 20. And then Preece was just like, I don't want you to be here. So he was like, get out of here. And Larson was running pretty good, actually, running top 10 through the most of that race until things went wrong for him. But we come down to the end, and it's a 4-horse race with Kyle Busch. Mainly it was a 2-horse race to start with Busch and Bell. Busch was trying to hold on. Bell had a bit of a tire advantage, and of course Byron and Reddick eventually come into the mix as well. Obviously, I don't really care about any of the 4, so I was really hoping that Busch was going to hang on there. But I knew with the amount of laps that we had left that there was no way that Busch was going to be able to hold off the 20. So I was surprised because in the first green flag run of that stage, Busch was able to maintain and gap the 20 as the run went on, as the tires were wearing. So I was a bit surprised in a good way that only 2 lap fresher tires made that much of a difference to allow Bell to do what he needed to do and eventually pass the 8. So, because like I said, Jay, already a few times, any previous road course race, that never happens. With the next
that would
gen.
have just been a follow the leader with the top 4 for the last however many laps of that race, instead of what we got where they were legitimately fighting each other. It wasn't that they were staying close to each other but they couldn't pass. They were legitimately trying to pass each other. They were legitimately fighting each other. Byron was just kind of, I think he was just sitting back waiting his time, really. I'm not sure if he had a good enough car to pass the 2 in front of him, so he was probably just doing everything he could, hoping those 2 got into a wreck in front of him. Bell was trying to set up Busch as much as he could. Kyle Busch was driving a defensive masterclass, and just ultimately was not enough in the end, but Kyle Busch drove masterfully defending that lead. He should have lost it like 6 laps before he actually did. And Bell obviously drove him really fair as well. There was the one moment where they got really close in turn 1 and Bell had to miss the corner to avoid hitting him, and then they had a little bit of contact a lap or 2 later. But it was fantastic racing overall from those 2. It's just, I can't say enough how stupidly refreshing it was to have a 4-car battle for the win for like 10 laps and they're all racing each other really respectfully, racing hard while still giving each other room, not just knocking each other out of the way. And the by the end of the race, we got a winner who made the pass clean, who won the race by actually making racing moves and racing passes and not just bulldozing each other out of the way. It's just I can't state how refreshing it was to have a finish like that.
I think it helped that we had 4 really respectful drivers.
Yes, it did.
Up there fighting for it.
I think if you put Carson Hocevar or Chastain or anybody else super desperate for a win who's not in the car they know they can win with every single week, you won't get that. You'll get the bulldozing and moving out of the way. But we didn't have that, thankfully, this time.
And yeah, Byron as well gets up into second. Reddick was right there with them at the end, and they all race it clean out to the very end, where Bell hangs on to get his second win in just the first 3 races, and of course back-to-back wins after Atlanta and now in COTA. Kyle Busch fell off a cliff once he got passed by those guys.
Yeah, that's how much you could tell he was defensively driving, and his car was just not good enough. Because once he got past and was back in dirty air, he was gone. And
Elliott even passed him right at the end and got to 4th. Yeah. So, still a good result for Kyle Busch, and he still stepped up and ran a great race. So I think that's the positive takeaway there, and it's just good to see him run well. And hopefully obviously this weekend it is Phoenix this weekend, isn't it? So
yes,
yeah, okay. I kept thinking we were going to a mile and a half, so still going to be hard to kind of get a really good indicator of where everyone is until next week. Obviously, this week will still be a good indicator. I think next week will be the best of the kind of start of the year. But we're at least now we're going into the swing of the year where things are normal, and we got some, normal NASCAR races that are not a 2 super speedways and a road course to kick off the year, and you're just kind of wondering where everyone really stacks up. So, but before we move on from Circuit of the Americas and to the end of the show, Jay, we need to talk about the broadcast. The broadcast. The Fox
a constant
broadcast.
Conversation every single week. I feel like you put in there for our topics, you put it in late. I feel like at this point we can just go ahead weeks in advance. Fox broadcast, Fox broadcast, Fox broadcast.
Man, that Fox broadcast for the Chicago. Oh wait, no, they're not doing Chicago. I forgot. Man, that All-Star race is terrible. But there's 2 specific instances. You probably already know where I'm going with it.
Yep.
The first one is the crash with Suarez and Zilich at the end of lap 1.
Egregious.
The end of lap 1 of stage 3, they crashed. So we're not even under coverage for a full lap, and they have this crash, and they say, "Okay, we're going to commercial. We'll show you when we come back." We just had this wasn't just a crash. It was a big crash. I mean, Suarez was destroyed. His car was done. Zilich was buried in the barrier, and
even if it wasn't like a huge crash as far as the amount of damage there was, it's Connor Zilich, one of the guys they had been hyping up the entire day, the entire weekend for making his Cup debut. He's just crashed, and we cut to commercial immediately.
And boom. See, we'll show you in 3 minutes when we're back. I'm like, what? I saw some people tweeting about like I bet on this guy, and we're waiting for the commercials to show what happened to him. I want to know if you bet on NASCAR and something like that happens. I don't feel bad for you.
Seek help.
Seek help. But it's just terrible. And they come back and they give us some proper replays, which is great. But that embarrassing that the way they went about it as usual.
Yeah.
So it just
instant.
Unbelievable. I just don't know how you can do that.
They're showing their first replay of the incident, which I believe was an onboard from, I don't know if it was Suarez.
And it was with the music playing,
Suarez.
Going to commercial.
Yeah, exactly. They're showing the first replay from a bumper cam going to commercial. All of that is ridiculous.
It didn't even get to the point where we saw the 87 hit the barrier because they cut it off right after the contact. They're like, oh, here's the contact. All right, now we're going. Yeah.
I think they gave us a side-by-side, and we found out under commercial with the side-by-side that Zilich was wrecked. I don't remember fully now, but we obviously didn't know he was wrecked until at least either side-by-side under commercial or until they came back from commercial, which is just undeniably horrible.
So they come back, they show the commercials, whatever. And then the other big moment late in the race with the 4-car battle for the lead, we get to the point of where they do the new second left-hander to finish off the short version and end up on that long straightaway. That's not a long straightaway anymore, but what would be that long stretch of track, or was it further down the racetrack?
Section.
The stadium
no,
section, basically.
Section.
Yes.
It's before they're going into the turn.
Yeah, you're right.
17,
Yeah.
16, 17, 18, I think.
And we get the most glorious camera shot. These guys are all over each other. And we pan.
I will say the camera angle at first was great.
It was great for about 2 seconds. And then all we see is the backside of a grandstand. And there is no race
Busch
cars
is being
anymore.
Set up for a move by Bell, and Byron, I think, is also simultaneously trying to make a move on Bell. They're going 3 wide and back of grandstands. That's all we get.
And I'm like, there's a guy that produces these camera shots and chooses what cameras to go to.
Yeah.
Is he not paid attention all day long?
I don't say this often or ever, really. To Clint Boyer's credit, he was doing a fantastic job of setting up what we were about to see happen. And then instead of that, we see the back of a grandstand. I think Boyer had it called right and was exactly right on what was about to happen, but all we saw was the back of a grandstand instead.
And one of the commentators you could hear just like, ugh.
Yeah, I think it was Clint, and then one of them threw their pin, and then it went dead silence for the next 10 to 15 seconds, however long it was. And I'm sure at least Harvick was yelling at the producers, if not Harvick and Boyer.
Fox is terrible. Speaking of Fox, IndyCar, actually, we didn't talk about. Yeah. There's not really much to talk about there, but the broadcast was actually pretty good.
The broadcast overall was decent. The cartoons I hate.
Yeah.
Some of the timing for commercials and some of the timing for... I mean, it's still Fox, so some of the timing was just terrible with camera shots and all that kind of stuff. But the annoying thing is that was IndyCar's first race with Fox, and I would say that their broadcast overall was 1,000 times better than it has been for NASCAR the past 8-9 years. It's kind of annoying to say that.
I saw their broadcast numbers. It was like 1.4 million.
Something like that, yeah.
Which was up from
900 something thousand last year.
But honestly, like a 600,000 increase. I expected a larger number because I knew, like, obviously the number is going to be larger for the first race with Fox, no matter what, and it's on like Fox. So
yeah, I can't remember if last year's race was on NBC or USA. I don't recall. I'm sure that Adam said in his tweet, but I just don't remember seeing it. But yeah, that
number is going to go down
like,
from
this is a big number. This is huge, and I'm like,
that's like an Xfinity race.
Yeah, I think 1.4 is good. It's good for IndyCar, but it's not like anything to be super celebratory about because it's their first race.
That number is going to keep going down.
Huge marketing campaign over the last month since the Super Bowl. It's our first race with Fox. It's our first race of the year. All this stuff. And I think for 1.4 million, I'm not sure if I would be that happy about that because, like you said, it's going to go down.
Yeah, I mean, 1.4 to kick off years is, I don't know. It's good that it went up, but with all the, like as you just said, with the marketing and Fox's first race, no, that number obviously was going to go up. So to only be at like 1.4 million, I just that number, the number will be great for the 500, but. Outside of that, and like I think that if you're like a casual fan, that was probably not a great first race as well.
No, it was not.
Like,
which is really disappointing because usually St. Pete is a really fun race. Usually it puts on a good show, but it's just that one. The strategy was really interesting. The 3 different strategies that were going on at the same time, that was intriguing and interesting. But I'm sure to a casual fan, trying to pay attention to keep up with the strategies like that is not going to be that interesting. You really want to see the passing and the good racing and all that kind of stuff, and there wasn't a whole lot of that. The passing was done because of strategy for the most part.
Now, we could be wrong. Who knows? Maybe the numbers will stay stable.
That I'll be interested to see is how their numbers fare on the ovals outside of the Indy 500 later in the year. I think that is somewhere IndyCar could really capitalize on, having themselves on Fox for all of the ovals this year. I feel like that's always drawn the crowd for IndyCar. It's unfortunate that they don't have as many ovals. They don't have as many big fun ovals as they used to. But yeah, I think the schedule is probably going to be the biggest thing that hampers IndyCar in the future if they don't get it fixed as far as ovals go. But that's, we're getting off track again.
Shout out to IndyCar. They're racing at Thermal Club for their next race. That was
so
a disaster.
Cool. That's fantastic, baby. Thermal Club, let's go. Yes, this is what I want to see. This is how we fix IndyCar, Gary. We go to places like Thermal Club.
Shout out to Roger Penske and their whoever takes control of schedules. So, and then they're doing that street course in Texas, right? So, I just want to go on.
That one's pretty cool, but
the whole the representative or CEO guy that was in control of IndyCar and Fox talking. I don't understand the obsession of having to bring Formula One into everything when it comes to IndyCar.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's really dumb.
Why?
IndyCar should just be IndyCar. It doesn't have to be compared to F1. It doesn't have to be compared to NASCAR. It's just like NASCAR should be NASCAR.
Yes.
It's always a weird
The only
thing
similarities is their open
F1
wheel.
this and F1 that. And it's like, no, IndyCar is IndyCar, NASCAR is NASCAR, F1's F1. They're all separate. They don't share a lot other than they are a racing series with 4 wheels, drivers that drive the cars, and point standings. That's about it.
So I really can't stand it. And then you have official people that worked on this deal comparing it to F1, and I was just like, oh my god, like that. Whenever I see those, I remember some drivers last year were like, oh, this is way better than F1. I'm like, shut up. Like, I don't care. I'm going to watch F1 still, and I'm probably going to watch it more over your stuff because I'm tired of you guys comparing yourselves to that.
I will say I agree, though, that F1 or the IndyCar is better than F1.
Well, the racing quality for sure is. But why are you comparing yourself to that?
They're way different.
Yeah. So, like, I get you're both open wheel, but still, the disciplines are completely different from each other in how both sports work. And the culture, everything's so different.
IndyCar cars are spec. F1 is most certainly not. That right there is enough of a difference to be like, okay, you can't compare yourself anymore because of that.
It's gets on my nerves all the time. And speaking of F1, we got F1 coming back, not this weekend, next weekend. So we'll get to talk about the season opening round coming up here pretty soon. But outside of that, the only thing left we have is Phoenix this weekend in the NASCAR side of things. Jay, the only really talking point there is we have the Chase Briscoe. He's going into this race with a lot of confidence because
he's going into this race with
he's won there before. Now. He's won there before. Just had a huge point day with winning their appeal for that whole like spoiler thing and whatnot. So shout out to him, and actually that puts him inside the playoffs now. So I think honestly I think he's going to be pretty strong this weekend because Phoenix seems to be a pretty good track for him. He got his first Cup win there.
Unless I'm mistaken, it puts him inside the playoffs. Are you sure?
I thought it did.
Unless the NASCAR app has not updated, he is
where does it show
in the playoffs. Give me a second. Oh, you know what? Maybe it hasn't updated because I'm in 34th and I don't see him yet.
Okay, it's definitely not updated.
Oh, wait, no, I might be blind. Hold on. Give me a second here.
He's got to be in there somewhere.
Where's that 19? He's got to be in the point standings at some point. Oh, he's 15th in the points.
There we go. He's in the playoffs.
Okay, you're right. He's in.
So, shout out to Chase Briscoe. Big day. He's in the playoffs and going to a track where he's won in the Cup Series before. That 19 car has been pretty good at that track as well. So, we'll see how that works out for him. So, we're going to Phoenix with the new, we have the set of option tires. That's going to be as well an option. We saw that at Richmond last year. They talked about trying it maybe in the Final Four. Thank God they didn't bring that into the Final Four. That would have been interesting, and maybe not in a great way. But we're trying it here in Phoenix again, and I am curious to see how that goes because we saw it like specifically Richmond last year. It changed up some things where I remember Suarez put on his option tires right at the end and was charging through the field when the majority of the guys had already used their options. So I think really, Jay, it's just going to benefit the guy that's able to save that option tire to the very end of that race, really.
Yeah, and maybe a bit of a different conversation about the option tire that I want to have is I don't know how I feel about the tire options yet.
Option.
I'm not sure if I would rather just have Goodyear bring that as the tire that everybody runs and they don't have
I
two
think that's
different
what they're
tires to
going to
choose
eventually
from.
do, though.
I would think so. I think that they're testing for doing that, but I've yet to be able to decide if I like the idea of them having two tires to choose from or just bring that soft tire and have everybody race on it. I don't know which I like more yet. I kind of like the idea of teams having to choose and making that decision and choosing when they put the softer tire on. I kind of like that, but at the same time, it makes things confusing for a casual fan. It just brings more opportunities for stupidness and for drama in. So I don't know, but I like they're testing it. I like they're trying things. If it does wind up being the tire they bring one day, and that's the only tire they go with on these short tracks, then good. I think it's a nice tire for the fact that it degrades really well. It gives the drivers an opportunity to then have to save their tires, and for somebody like Denny Hamlin or any one of the older drivers who have worked with saving tires before, it gives them an advantage. It makes managing your tires actually a thing you have to worry about. And no matter what, that is always going to be a good thing. So I like the tire. I just don't know if I like the choice of two tires yet or not.
Sure, we'll have a lot to talk about that next week and our thoughts on it after seeing it in action for the second time in a Cup Series race that we'll be trying this experiment with two different tire compounds. So,
I pull up the ARCA race and they're crashing.
Of course they are. We are going to do our race picks. Xfinity, we both chose Zilich, I think, for Xfinity in COTA, and we were right. I chose SVG in the Cup Series, and I was completely wrong on that one. I don't remember who you chose.
We got to write this down because I think this is 2 weeks in a row we both cannot.
Yeah,
remember
I'm going to write this one down now, and then I'm going to go back.
I know we chose Zilich for Xfinity. Oh no, I chose Kyle Larson for Sunday.
Oh really?
So
okay.
We were both very wrong.
Okay, so Phoenix. Let's go with. We're not even going to talk about the you know what? We'll throw Xfinity in. Who we're going to Xfinity Series Phoenix Raceway. Going to go with the oh god. Now that who's in Xfinity that can like win? I'm going to go with Sheldon Creed.
Oh my god.
Yep.
That is probably the last person I expected you to choose. I'm gonna toss up between Jesse Love and Justin Allgaier. I am gonna
Allgaier's great there.
With Allgaier.
All right, Jay's going with Justin Allgaier. Cup Series side of things, I'm gonna go.
I think it's hard to not go with a Penske driver here.
It's not the playoffs.
It's still.
Give me a time when tell me the last time a Penske car won the Phoenix Spring Race.
You think I'm gonna have that off the top of my head?
I think it was like Logano, like 2017.
All right. I'm so sorry.
It's just
it is good at Phoenix. I'm so sorry.
Weird how in a spec car Penske just shows up in that Final Four race at Phoenix. I'm gonna go with three-peat Christopher Bell.
I don't necessarily see that happening. However, it's also not a bad pick because man, he's quick. He's really
great at Phoenix.
Quick. The last half of last year, and of course, it carried into this year with 2 wins already. I don't know. This is another hard one for me too. There's a lot to choose from here. There's Larson, Chase Elliott, even Kyle Busch. Really, I think Kyle Busch has the speed. Just does he have the luck to win? I don't know. Tyler Reddick.
Okay, there you go. So I got Creed and Bell for Xfinity and Cup. Jay's got Justin Allgaier and Tyler Reddick. So we'll see who comes out on top this weekend. And I guess that's really I think that's gonna wrap it up. We don't really have anything else to go on about. So yeah. We'll see you guys next week. We'll try to get next week's recorded a bit earlier to go out earlier in the week. But outside of that, appreciate you guys listening as usual. And we will see you guys following Phoenix Raceway. Thank you for watching or listening, and have yourselves a great day.